Adrian Miles had taken bullets, survived IEDs, and led Black Ops missions deep in hostile territory. But nothing could have prepared him for the email that appeared in his inbox at exactly 9:02 a.m. Subject, payroll termination notice, effective immediately from Madison Kent, HR Director, Arcadia Systems. He read the subject line twice, then a third time. The office around him buzzed with Monday energy, coffee brewing, keyboards clacking, salespeople bantering near the espresso machine. But to Adrian, the world had gone quiet. His palms prickled as he clicked the message open. No salutation. No thank you for your service. Just a flat procedural note. As of April 30th, your contractor status with Arcadia Systems will be discontinued due to departmental restructuring. Your access will be revoked within 24 hours. Please coordinate offboarding with IT. Restructuring? Adrian had been leading the Data Risk Division for nearly 9 months, ever since transitioning out of military recovery into civilian work. Just last week, he'd presented a risk model that caught a critical breach attempt. He was hailed in the boardroom as tactical precision meets corporate foresight. Now he was being dismissed by a calendar notice. He looked up across the open floor. Madison Kent, the HR director, barely out of her 20s, stood with 2 others at the far end, laughing about something on her phone. She didn't meet his eyes. Adrian stood up and walked directly to her. "Madison," he said, voice calm but charged. "I just received a termination notice. No prior warning, no meeting. You're not even giving me a conversation?" She blinked, feigned confusion, then offered a half shrug. "It's not personal, Adrian. We've been reviewing all veteran contracted roles. It's about cost efficiency and optics." "Optics?" he echoed. She sighed. "Look, the PTSD concern flagged by your last evaluation raised risk concerns. And frankly, your security credentials make upper management uneasy." "Uneasy," he repeated, his jaw locking tight. "I protected those credentials with my life. Half the protocols you use now were built off military defense models I helped pioneer." "I know," she said with a forced smile. "But we're pivoting, clean slate." He wanted to say more. About betrayal, hypocrisy, about the ridiculousness of being penalized for the very skills that saved their systems. But he didn't. He turned, walked out of Arcadia Systems for the last time, and headed straight home. The drive was silent, not even the radio, just the hum of tires on asphalt and the echo of disappointment. His home in suburban Raleigh had once felt like sanctuary, a place where laughter from the twins, Ethan and Caleb, bounced off the walls, and his wife, Vanessa, would kiss him at the door. But today, the house felt hollow. The driveway was clear, which was odd. Vanessa usually worked remotely and rarely left before noon. Inside, Adrian noticed immediately. The wedding photos in the hallway were gone. The picture of their honeymoon in Colorado? Missing. The family frame in the living room? Replaced with a minimalist abstract canvas. He set his keys down slowly, scanning the space. Then he heard it, Vanessa's heels on the hardwood approaching from the kitchen. When she saw him, she froze. Her hair was styled sharply, makeup flawless, dressed in a silk blouse he didn't recognize. "You're home," she said, expression unreadable. "I thought you were at work." "Not anymore," he said flatly. "Got terminated without cause. No conversation. Just a memo." She hesitated. "I'm sorry to hear that." He waited. For warmth, for a hug, for anything familiar. Nothing came. "Where are the boys?" he asked. "With my parents," she said. "They're keeping them for the week." A long silence. "I want a divorce," Vanessa finally said, voice flat and practiced. Adrian exhaled, slow and sharp. "Excuse me?" "I've met someone. His name is Connor Reed. He works in defense contracts, high-level stuff. He's good to me. And he's here. You're not." Adrian stared at her. His heartbeat didn't spike. His voice didn't rise. His training kicked in. Contain, assess, plan. "So that's it?" he asked. "After 15 years? After deployments, near deaths, the twins being born while I was halfway across the world, this is how it ends?" She looked down. "I've changed. We've both changed." "No," he said, his voice now low. "You stopped being you. And you chose someone who's never seen what you've seen in me." She avoided his gaze. "The papers are on the kitchen counter. I'll be staying at Connor's tonight, to give you space." Vanessa grabbed a packed duffel and walked out the front door without another word. Adrian stepped into the kitchen and saw the manila envelope, the divorce papers. She wanted full custody, the house, and all joint assets. Her lawyer, a shark, her justification: unstable home life due to voluntary military deployment, emotional distance, inability to maintain civilian employment. He laughed under his breath. One day fired, and she already had the narrative, already prepared for war. He called his sons. Their excited voices brought tears to his eyes, though he held them back. When they asked when he'd visit, he said soon. As he hung up, Adrian stared out the window. The battlefield had changed, but he had not. Later that evening, his phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Heard what happened. Got intel on Connor Reed. Something's off. Let me run it. You in?" Adrian replied with 2 words. "Do it." He sat in the dark, the room now stripped of all warmth, all memory. His military records were full of black ink and redacted missions, ghost ops, hidden kills, near deaths and silence. But this was personal. This was his new war. If you've ever been discarded after giving your all, your loyalty, your energy, your time, type 1 in the comments. Some wounds don't bleed, they burn. Adrian Miles stepped into the mediation room, expecting discomfort, awkward tension, maybe a few jabs from opposing counsel. What he didn't expect was the smirking face of Connor Reed, already seated at the table beside Vanessa like he owned the room. "Adrian," Vanessa said, her tone dry, "this is just a formality. No need to make things harder than they need to be." Adrian ignored her and turned to the mediator. "Let's proceed." Connor wore a tailored navy suit and a smug expression, fingers laced calmly in front of him. He looked like a man who'd already won, because in his mind, he had. His eyes carried the kind of confidence that came not just from sleeping with someone's wife, but from believing he was better than the man he replaced. The mediator cleared her throat. "Let's begin with custody proposals." Adrian barely listened. His attorney Eli Vance did most of the talking, but what Adrian did observe was Vanessa's body language, aligned toward Connor, not just emotionally but physically. And worse, Connor occasionally leaned over, whispering into her ear like they were sharing a joke at Adrian's expense. They weren't there to negotiate. They were there to humiliate. That night, Adrian stood in front of the bathroom mirror in his temporary apartment. The lights flickered slightly, a far cry from the warm LED lighting of the home he'd built for his family. He pressed his fingers against the sink, staring hard at his own reflection. He looked older, angrier, but not broken. His phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. "Connor's clean on paper, but too clean. No digital footprint before 2017, like he got inserted into the system." Adrian texted back, "Push deeper. Look for connections to Meridian Defense." He had a gut feeling, and in combat, gut feelings saved lives. The next day, while on his way to a physical therapy appointment, Adrian stopped at a red light and glanced out the window. There, across the parking lot, Connor Reed, leaning against a silver BMW, sunglasses on, sipping coffee like he belonged in a Wall Street ad. Adrian parked. As he got out, Connor noticed and smiled. "Hey, man, didn't mean to ambush you." Adrian approached slowly, measured. "What are you doing here?" Connor shrugged. "Waiting on Vanessa. Thought we could talk." "About what?" Adrian asked. Connor held out a hand. No hard feelings, really. These things happen. People change. Adrian didn't move. Connor's smile stiffened. I'm here because I care about your kids. Vanessa says you're a good father, just unavailable. I want to be clear, I'm not trying to replace you. You already tried, Adrian replied. They already call me Dad sometimes, Connor added casually. That did it. Adrian stepped forward, not violently, but close enough that Connor's posture shifted. He dropped his hand. You want advice? Adrian said, voice level. In combat, the fastest way to get yourself killed is announcing your position before the firefight starts. Connor frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I see you, and I'm not done. He turned and walked away, leaving Connor frozen by his expensive car. That evening, Eli Vance sat across from Adrian at a quiet diner on the edge of town. Reed's lawyer is a pit bull, Eli said, and Vanessa's backing him full force. They're arguing emotional instability, erratic behavior, the fact that you're currently unemployed. They're painting me as unfit. Exactly. Adrian took a sip of black coffee. Then we stopped playing defense. Eli raised a brow. You have something? Not yet, Adrian said, but I have someone digging. Eli nodded. Be careful. Connor's not just a homewrecker. If he's with Meridian and using Vanessa to access your personal logs, we're talking federal crimes. Adrian's eyes narrowed. He picked the wrong soldier. 2 nights later, Adrian met Marcus in a parking garage downtown. Got something, Marcus said, tossing him a USB. Connor Reed isn't his real name. He's been using aliases, worked under different IDs in 3 different contracting firms over the past 7 years. Meridian's just the latest. Espionage? Adrian asked. Looking likely? And your ex-wife? She accessed your lockbox 3 times while you were deployed. We've got footage. Adrian clenched his jaw. She knew your protocols, Marcus continued. Maybe she didn't realize what she was handing over. Maybe she did. Either way, Adrian thought, she chose him over our family. What's the move? Marcus asked. Adrian stared into the night sky, quiet for a beat. Then, we go to court, but not for a hearing, for a takedown. 3 days later, Adrian walked into the courtroom in full uniform. His back was straight, his wounds healing, but his resolve sharper than ever. Judge Ellison presided, stern and meticulous. Vanessa sat beside Connor and Reynolds, their high-powered attorney. Adrian took his seat quietly. Eli whispered, Everything ready? Adrian nodded. The hearing began as expected. Vanessa's team cited emotional harm, inconsistency, military volatility. Photos of Adrian's injury, his discharge, even his VA mental health report were paraded across the projector like weapons. Connor kept his expression neutral, but Adrian saw the flicker of unease when Judge Ellison glanced at him longer than necessary. Then the judge looked at Adrian. Mr. Miles, do you have anything to add? Adrian stood. Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to submit additional evidence, pertinent to the safety and custody of my children. Reynolds objected. This is highly irregular. Sit down, Judge Ellison barked. Adrian walked to the bench and handed over a sealed folder. Judge Ellison opened it. His expression changed almost immediately. What is this? He asked, voice tight. Everything, Adrian replied. The judge looked up. Clear the courtroom, now. Gasps echoed. Vanessa spun around. Adrian, what the hell is this? Connor was already pale. Bailiff, Judge Ellison snapped. Lock the doors, no one leaves. Get me Colonel Monroe from CID, code Alpha 7. Vanessa turned to Connor. What did you do? Connor stood, but Adrian stepped forward. You betrayed the wrong man, Adrian said, voice low. And the government doesn't forgive treason. If you've ever watched someone smile while stabbing you in the back, type 2. Some suits hide snakes. The sound of the judge's gavel slamming down echoed like a gunshot. Clear the courtroom. Bailiff, lock the doors. Nobody leaves. The gallery erupted in murmurs. Connor Reed's smug mask melted in real time, replaced by pale confusion. Vanessa spun toward Adrian, wide-eyed and trembling. "Adrian, what is this?" she demanded. Adrian didn't answer. He stood still, posture firm, eyes on the judge. Judge Ellison picked up his desk phone. "This is Ellison in courtroom 2C. Activate code Alpha 7. I need Colonel Monroe and a military security team dispatched immediately." Vanessa gasped. "You're calling the Army? What is going on?" Reynolds, her high-powered attorney, stood in protest. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular. We weren't informed." "I don't care," the judge snapped. "You're not in control anymore, Mr. Reynolds. Sit down." Just then, the heavy courtroom doors swung open and 4 military police officers entered with precision, led by a tall, severe man in uniform. "Colonel Travis Monroe," the officer announced. "United States Army Criminal Investigation Division." He scanned the courtroom, eyes locking onto Connor Reed. "Mr. Reed, please rise." Connor didn't move. "There must be some mistake." "There's no mistake," Monroe replied flatly. "You're being detained under suspicion of espionage, in violation of federal and military intelligence statutes." Connor looked to Vanessa like she might save him. "Nessa! Say something!" Vanessa staggered backward, clutching her designer handbag like it could shield her. "What are you talking about?" she said to Adrian. This can't be real." Adrian finally looked at her. "While I was getting shot at in Afghanistan," he said, voice cold and unwavering, "your boyfriend was stealing encrypted defense data from my lockbox and selling it to foreign operatives. 3 men in my unit are dead because of it." "No," she whispered. "I didn't know." "That's what we're going to determine," Colonel Monroe cut in. The MPs advanced. One placed Connor in cuffs, reading him his rights. Another approached Vanessa. "You'll need to come with us for questioning, Mrs. Miles." "This is insane," she yelled, flailing away. "I didn't do anything." But the officer remained calm. "That's for the investigators to decide." Reynolds was already packing his briefcase, visibly rattled. "I'll need to make a few calls." "You do that," Judge Ellison replied dryly. "Just not outside this room." 20 minutes later, the courtroom was nearly empty. Vanessa and Connor had been escorted out. The press hadn't even had time to react. It had all moved that fast. Adrian remained behind, sitting with Eli Vance and Colonel Monroe. Judge Ellison turned to him, now calmer but deeply serious. "Mr. Miles, I assume you have more evidence than what was in that envelope?" "Yes, Your Honor. My contact with CID traced Reed's financial transactions, communications with shell companies, and access logs showing he used Vanessa's credentials to get into my encrypted journal entries. Entries that included details from classified deployments." Monroe added, "We've been investigating a leak for months. Thanks to Adrian's intel, we're about to close an entire network of compromised contractors. Reed was just the tip of the spear." The judge leaned back, exhaling. "This began as a custody hearing." Adrian nodded. "And became a matter of national security." Outside the building, Marcus Cole waited by a black SUV. As Adrian approached, Marcus offered a knowing nod. "Phase 1, complete." Adrian climbed into the passenger seat. "Where are the boys?" "With my parents as planned. They don't know anything yet." "Good." Marcus handed him a tablet. On screen was security footage from Vanessa's private home safe, time-stamped entries during Adrian's last deployment. Each one clearly showed her opening his secure lockbox. "She accessed it 3 times, Marcus said. "Once the same week Connor joined Meridian. We're still checking if she forwarded anything directly or just handed over physical materials." "She knew better," Adrian said through clenched teeth. "She knew that box was off limits. Maybe she didn't understand the stakes. Then she never really knew me at all." They rode in silence for a few miles before Marcus asked, "So, what now?" Adrian looked out the window. The North Carolina sky was a steel gray, thick with mist. "Now we wait," he said. "Let the intelligence team do their job. Meanwhile, I have a new mission, keeping my son safe." The military tribunal convened 3 weeks later at Fort Bragg. Adrian sat behind a one-way mirror, dressed in full uniform, watching as Connor Reed faced a closed-door court-martial. The evidence was stacked like bricks: encrypted communications with foreign handlers, bank transfers to Cayman Islands accounts, confidential maps printed from secure servers. Connor no longer looked sharp or self-assured. He looked like a man unraveling. Vanessa, though ultimately cleared of knowing participation in espionage, was publicly disgraced. She lost her job, her social circles, and the respect of her military veteran parents, who now barely spoke to her. Worse yet, she'd been dropped by her lawyer. She now sat beside an overworked public defender in the new custody hearing. This time, before Judge Hannah McCullen, who reviewed Vanessa's behavior with cold detachment. Adrian was granted primary physical custody of Ethan and Caleb. Vanessa was allowed supervised visitation only, pending further review. When the gavel fell, Vanessa burst into tears. "You can't do this to me!" Judge McCullen didn't flinch. "You exposed your children, however unintentionally, to a man who betrayed this country. That will not be overlooked." Outside the courthouse, Adrian knelt as his sons ran toward him. "Are we going home now, Dad?" Caleb asked. Adrian smiled. "We are. And guess what? Grandma and Grandpa are staying with us." "Where's Mom?" Ethan asked, quieter. "She'll still see you," Adrian said gently. "But you're living with me now." Back at their new house, Adrian tucked the boys into bed and stood by the window. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. "This isn't over. You ruined my life. I'll get my boys back." Signed, V. He stared at the screen, then deleted the message without responding. She didn't understand. She'd chosen her side. He'd chosen his. If you've ever watched someone smile while tearing your world apart, only to realize they played the wrong game with the wrong person, type 3. Because sometimes silence is the deadliest strike. Adrian Miles was lacing up his boots when his doorbell rang. He wasn't expecting anyone. It was Vanessa. She stood on his porch alone, no car in sight. No designer coat, no makeup, just a plain sweater, jeans, and an expression caught somewhere between exhaustion and desperation. Adrian opened the door slowly. "You're not scheduled to visit until Friday." "I know," she said, voice cracking. "But I needed to talk to you. Alone." He didn't step aside. "Why now?" Vanessa looked down, then back up. Her eyes were glassy. "I lost my job. My parents won't speak to me. I can't afford my apartment. I'm barely keeping it together." Adrian stayed silent. "I've been trying to rebuild what I ruined," she continued. "I've started therapy. I've been volunteering with military families. I know I can't undo what happened with Connor." "Stop saying his name like he was just a bad date," Adrian cut in. "He was a traitor, and you let him into our lives." "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," he said. "There's a difference." Her lips quivered, but she pushed forward. "I made a mistake. I was angry, lonely, and scared. I thought you'd never come home. I convinced myself I deserved something else, something easier." He crossed his arms. "And the boys?" "They need their mother," she said. "They miss me. I want to be part of their lives again, not just supervised visits." Adrian let the words hang. He could hear the twins laughing inside, racing down the hallway. "I'm not here to reopen wounds," Vanessa added. "Just to ask. Can we try to be civil, for their sake?" He looked her dead in the eye. "Civil doesn't rebuild trust. It only keeps fire from spreading." She flinched. "You didn't just betray me," Adrian continued. "You betrayed what I stand for. What I sacrificed for. You were my home, and you sold the key to someone who nearly got my team killed." Her tears fell freely now. Please, I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance. I want to fix at least one thing in my life." Adrian's voice lowered, measured and final. "You want a bridge back? That bridge burned the moment our sons called him Dad. I'm not rebuilding it." He closed the door. 3 months passed. Adrian deployed for a classified 6-month mission overseas, intelligence work tied directly to the network Connor had once belonged to. Before leaving, he filed guardianship paperwork, granting his parents full legal authority over the boys. Vanessa appealed. Again. She was denied. Again. Judge McCullen reviewed the case personally and confirmed that Adrian's assignment, directly tied to a matter of national security, took precedence. Until his return, all visitation requests would require written approval from his parents. Vanessa arrived for one of those scheduled visits only to find Marcus Cole waiting in front of the house. "Where are they?" she asked. "Not coming today," Marcus said, handing her an envelope. "Revised court order, signed this morning." Her hands trembled as she opened it. "He can't do this," she whispered. "He already has," Marcus replied, "and it's fully legal." "He disappears to some secret location and I get scraps of time with my kids?" Her voice rose. Marcus didn't flinch. "You chose a traitor over a patriot. There are consequences." She took a shaky step back. "Tell him this war of his, this crusade, it won't last forever. The boys will grow up. They'll ask questions. They'll make their own decisions." Marcus turned, then paused. "He already told me what to say if you ever said something like that." She blinked. "He said to remind you. He's training his sons the same way he trained his men, to recognize betrayal, to protect what's sacred, and to never, ever surrender what's theirs." 6 months later, Adrian returned home. The operation had been a success. The last of Connor's espionage network was dismantled. Adrian had received a commendation and an intelligence ribbon. But none of that mattered as much as the moment his sons ran out from the schoolyard, shouting his name. He picked them both up, despite the slight sting in his healing back. "You're home!" Caleb shouted. "Forever?" Ethan asked. Adrian smiled. "For as long as you need me." On the twins' 8th birthday, Adrian hosted a backyard party. The sun was out, decorations were hung by the boys themselves, and the smell of barbecue drifted through the air. Military families came, teachers, neighbors. Even Judge McCullen dropped by briefly to wish them well. Then, at exactly 2 p.m., Vanessa arrived. She stood near the gate with 2 modest gift bags. Her once expensive wardrobe had been replaced by clearance rack simplicity. Her face was worn, hair pulled into a bun, no longer polished or proud. She spotted Adrian on the deck and gave a small wave. He nodded once, no smile. The boys ran up to her. She crouched down, hugging them tightly. They were polite, reserved. Caleb pulled back first. "Thanks for the gifts, Mom," he said. "I wish I could have gotten more," she murmured. Ethan took the smaller bag and turned back to the party. "We're doing sparklers later. Want to stay?" She looked up at Adrian again. He checked his watch. "You've got 40 minutes." She sat alone at a picnic table while the kids played. No one approached. Most of the military wives present still avoided her completely. Vanessa watched as Adrian flipped burgers, laughed with neighbors, carried his sons on his shoulders. She knew whatever remained of her old life stood right there, just a few yards away, but out of reach. When he walked past her table with a stack of plates, she looked up one last time. "Adrian," she said softly, "will you ever forgive me?" He didn't stop walking. "I don't live in the past," he said, "but I never forget who tried to erase my future." As the sun dipped low, Vanessa left quietly. The boys barely noticed. Adrian stood near the gate watching her figure disappear down the road. No rage, no satisfaction, just silence. Because some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. If you've ever had to walk away from someone you once loved because they burned the very thing you built together, type 4. Some bridges are better left in ashes.